Biker Billy cooks with fire.
Alright, here I come. Oh boy, alright. Hey, welcome to the show. Just had to park the bike at the far end of the garage, and here we are. We're gonna cook with fire. Alright. Today, I've got a recipe that is special, just like you. This recipe is called Manicotti. Yes, these wonderful cheese-stuffed pasta little devils are outrageous. And I want to tell you, you're going to sit back, you're going to relax, you're going to check out these messages, and when we come back, we're going to cook with fire. All right. Still, now, to start our Manicotti, what we're going to do is start with our hot stuff. We've got here 2 wonderful hot peppers. They're dried. We've got an anjo pepper. And we have the king of hot stuff, the habanero. That little baby is dangerous. We also have 6 sun-dried tomatoes. So we're going to put the sun-dried tomatoes back in the bowl. We're going to do nothing to them yet. We're going to start with our anjo pepper. You're basically going to pull the stem off and open it up. Let the little seeds fall out. You don't need the seeds for this recipe. And then what you want to do, it's a beautiful, nice, Cordova-colored, warm, woodsy, smoky-colored, delicious flavored pepper. We're going to rip that up, put that in our bowl. Then we'll just get rid of these seeds right here, clean this up. What we're going to do is we're going to take our habanero. Now, be very careful. This is the hottest of hot peppers. It's dangerous, and you must wash your hands after you handle this pepper, or else you won't like the results. Now, I'm going to carefully cut the stem off of here, and if you are the kind of person who does not want the extra heat, yes, if you're a tender tongue, this little center, the placenta, the part with the seeds, you'll remove that and throw that away. If you're a certified hothead like me, you can use the whole thing minus the stem. Be very careful with those peppers. Now, I got me some water that had just recently boiled, not boiling, just recently boiled. I'm going to cover those up. 6 sun-dried tomatoes, 1 habanero pepper, and 1 anjo. And I'm going to let them rehydrate. Now, I got my boiling water. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to tell you all about cooking the manicotti pasta. But first, we're going to start with our other ingredients to spice up our cheese mix. We're going to take extra virgin olive oil. Nice. It's got a wonderful green color as opposed to the bright yellow. More flavor in the extra virgin. We're going to take 1/8 of a cup. I'm going to put that in a small saute pan and let that start to get hot. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a nice medium onion. Yes, you got to have onions. We're going to take that onion, we're going to peel it down, we're going to slice it up, quarter it up, and we're going to put it in and saute it in that nice olive oil. All right, now, we're going to use 3 different types of peppers in this recipe. I showed you the first 2. The other one we're going to hold back as a little surprise. We're going to use it in the sauce. That's why this is maniacal. It's hot on the inside. It is hot on the outside. We'll get these onions in that oil. Ooh. Nice, gentle sizzle of good extra virgin olive oil and onions. Now, while that simmers and sizzles, we're going to take and we're going to add a little garlic to that. We're going to add to this a whopping 4 level teaspoons of chopped garlic. Oh, wow. If you could smell this stuff, Bill Beecher, you'd just jump through that screen and come on in here and say, hey, let's eat. All right. Now, we got this simmering up. Let's talk manicotti noodles. Now, use any brand of noodles you like. I've got here some noodles. They come in a nice plastic tray. It's a good feature to watch out for. You don't need the box anymore. What you want to do is you got boiling water. I put a little salt in it. I've got a little special device here. I'm just going to slide these over. And I'm going to take, you got to respect, listen to that sizzle. You got to respect the boiling water. I want to show you a trick. Now, you can use a mitt to lift this. I know that these little handles aren't hot. This little colander in the pot is going to make it so much easier for you to remove your manicotti noodles. If you don't got one, get one. Now, put them in one at a time. That water should be nice and boiling, a rolling boil. Add them. What you want to do is cook them. This package says cook them 8 minutes. Cook them a little under. You want them on the al dente. Yes, that is Italian for firm. Or at least that's what they do when I ask for it al dente in a restaurant. Now, stir them occasionally. What you want to do is pour a little bit. You can use regular olive oil. Pour a little bit of olive oil in that water after you put the noodles in. This will help them not stick to each other. Boil them up a little on the firm side. What we're going to do is we're going to take them out. We're going to rinse them off with cold water and set them aside so they'll be cool when we're ready to stuff them with cheese. Now, while this is simmering up here, when your onions get nice and golden brown, what you're going to do is at that point you're going to have your nice mix is rehydrated. So you're going to just basically pour that wonderful, wonderful mix in there, and you're going to let this simmer until the liquid is all absorbed. When the liquid is totally absorbed, then I'm going to show you the next thing we do. But before we do that, I want you to sit back, relax, grab a bowl of my quick salsa recipe and some chips, have a munchie, and check out these messages. All right. All right, now we got our wonderful peppers and onion and garlic for our cheese flavoring cooking up, getting nice and smooth. I just put 1/8 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil in our large saute pan, and we're going to take a nice big onion and we're going to trim it down, and we're going to slice it up. We're going to make our sauce. Yes, our maniacal manicotti requires a sauce. So we'll take this onion and we'll just very simply slice it, and we'll quarter it. You don't need to cut it into itsy bitsy little bitsy pieces. No siree, Bob. Now we'll get this quartered. We got our olive oil getting nice and hot, and use that extra virgin olive oil. It's got extra delicious flavor. Now, we'll get those onions in the pan, and we'll wait for that sizzle. And I said we're using 3 types of peppers, and this is the surprise. The peppers in our sauce are nice red jalapeno peppers. Take a look at these beauties. What we want to do here is take off their little heads. We don't need the heads. And we'll just slit them down the middle and quarter them, and you can really see the placenta. This is that little section I talk about. That's where all the heat is. We're going to leave that in and leave the seeds in. Just want to slice these down the center. And then we're going to thin slice them. And we're going to put them in that wonderful hot olive oil with those onions and simmer these little babies up. This is a different type of heat than the habaneros or the ancho. We've got a couple of different types of heat. You will hopefully be able to experience the different varieties of hot. All right, different types of hot is what I'm all about. Now, get this nice and chopped up. Get them in with the onions. Now, while this begins to simmer and sizzle, I want to show you our nice, wonderful ancho or habanero peppers. You'll see there's still a little liquid at the bottom of that pan. We're going to let this simmer. We brought it to a boil and reduced the heat, and we got it simmering until the liquid is all absorbed. Now, what would a pasta sauce be like without garlic? That's right. You know I love garlic. So, we're going to take, I was going to use a teaspoon. I'm going to use a tablespoon. We'll take a tablespoon of chopped garlic. Throw that in the sauce. Now, if you don't like garlic as much as I like garlic, you don't have to use quite that much. I snuck out of the frame there. Going to wipe off my measure. We're going to take and put some spices in there. But garlic is fantastic. The flavor is outrageous. What would life be like without garlic? Garlic ice cream. One of these days, you wait and see. Now, we're going to take a level teaspoon of oregano. Put the oregano in there. We're going to take a level teaspoon of nice black pepper. Love that black pepper. And I'm going to put a level teaspoon of salt. If you're on a low salt diet, skip the salt. If you're not, it does bring the flavors out. And we're going to take and we're going to add 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. You can use the fresh if you have it, but the dried is just fine. Now, we're going to simmer and saute that up. This sauce, you don't want to cook this sauce a lot. You want the sauce fresh. You want it chunky. Now, while we simmer and saute this, we got to use tomatoes, right? All right. Got to use them tomatoes. What I'm going to use is I got a 28-ounce can of whole peeled plum tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes, but you can do this whole recipe in about half an hour at home. We've already boiled up our noodles, and I'll show you our wonderful manicotti in a moment. We're going to take our food processor. Now, these are whole tomatoes. You'll see they're nice, big, they're peeled, they're beautiful. You want to put them in the food processor, and you want to pulse it a couple of times, 2-3 times. You want big chunks, nice big chunks. So we'll plop them in the food processor. Delicious tomatoes. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4 good pulses. We'll take a look at that, and we'll see that we do have some nice big chunks. It's okay if you got some big chunks. You can break them up as it cooks. Now, when our onions have gotten on a nice golden side, we're going to add this in. We're going to simmer this. We'll let that cook for a second. I want to show you the noodles. Now, our manicotti, yes. I've cooked them. I boiled them so they're al dente, which means they're nice and firm. And I've cooled them so you can hold on to them, because you're going to have to hand hold them. You're going to have to hold their hands. Yes, sirree. When they get stuffed, you're going to have to be there with them, stuffing them. Now, we're going to add our tomatoes. You should smell the aromas. This is outrageous. Now, while this sauce cooks, you're going to want this sauce to cook for about 10 or 15 minutes until most of the liquidiness is gone. You don't want it like real thick, but you want it on the chunky side, not the watery side. What you're going to do is we've got our wonderful spicy mix here that we're going to puree now. We've cooked it down so that all of the liquid has been absorbed. And let me just reach down here and get a spoon. And we're going to take a blender. You want to use a blender for this, not a food processor, because the blender will puree it finer, because we're going to blend this with our cheese. And to make this blend a little bit easier, what you're going to do is take another tablespoon of our wonderful extra virgin olive oil. Put that in there. That will help this blend much easier. Start it on chop, and then it progress to puree. When we come back, this will be nice and blended. The sauce will be ready. We will stuff our maniacal manicottis, and we will prepare it for cooking in our magic oven. And you will have to guess which side is the magic oven on today. So while I puree, you sit back, relax. When we come back, we'll cook with fire. All right. All right. Forgot to put my apron on. Don't want to ruin a good biking t-shirt. I'm always forgetting. Fortunately, I got plenty of these shirts, and I'll tell you how you can get one too. Now take a look here in the saute pan, and you'll see that our sauce still has a fair amount of liquid in it. We're going to let that simmer down. Now, when you left to check out those messages and eat some of my salsa, we were pureeing in the blender. You got to have a blender you can remove the bottom from, because this stuff is not going to pour out. It's nice and thick. Why don't we take a look at how beautiful this is. Nice, rich red. It's not as pretty as you might think, but the taste is outrageous. Now, let's make a cheese filling that is truly maniacal. Take a big bowl. What we're going to start with is some nice ricotta cheese, and you're going to take 2 cups of ricotta. And I want you to make sure that when you measure these, that you pack it in there so that it's nice and full cups. 2 cups of ricotta. All right, that's 1 full cup. Blah. Now, we're going to use 4 different types of cheese in this. I'll just rapidly fill this one. If you're not sure, you can have a little extra cheese. 2 full cups of ricotta. 1 cup of nice shredded mozzarella cheese. Now, we've got a 1/2 cup of a mixture of Parmesan and Romano. We've got our 3 wonderful cheeses in there. We're going to take and add 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. Nice, green, beautiful parsley. Delicate flavor. It's very interesting. Take you a little while to recognize it in the midst of all these spices. Now, we're going to mix this cheese up first before we put the spices in. And here is where you have to use your own judgment. Understand that cheese, especially this Romano cheese, is a great compensator for a lot of heat. So, you can start out, and if you're a tender tongue, not a fire eater, you can put a tablespoon or 2 of this mix in. All right? Now, if you've graduated past being a little tender tongue and you're a little more into exciting, you can add a little more. When you're a genuine fire eater, you can put the whole thing. Now, if you're really a hothead, a true chili freak beyond belief, you might even, when you make this the second time, add more than 1 habanero, which gives it that whoosh of fire. Now, we're going to take and just blend this up. This cheese is going to get a nice, rich color. It is just fabulous. Now, some people add egg to this. I don't. You want to, you can add an egg. There's no harm in that. Now, we've got our cheese nicely mixed up. The flavor is all blended in there. Let's take a look in our saute pan, and we will see that this is starting to cook down. It's not going to be no liquid, but it's going to be a lot less liquidy than it started. Now, for the fun part. We're going to take our manicotti, and we'll take a tablespoon. Actually, you'll do better with a teaspoon. I'll reach down here in the bottom. And we're going to take a teaspoon, and we're going to take a noodle. And what we're going to do is from one side, you're going to want to just gently stuff it. Do it over the bowl so that any filling that doesn't make it inside ends up back in the bowl. Don't overfill them. If you overfill them, you won't have enough. This should be enough to handle 1 average 8-ounce box of pasta. So you just take, and it takes a little while. This is maybe the hardest part of cooking this recipe, is having the patience to stuff the cheese inside. But you will never get a cheese blend as outrageously tasty and different as this in a commercially available manicotti. Yes. Now we'll stuff that up. You stuff it from one end, and eventually, as you're stuffing, it takes a little bit of time, it'll start to come out the other end. So at that point, what you can just do is just flip it over and fill the last little bit. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to prepare several of these. Then we're going to take and we're going to put them in the pan with our sauce, which is still simmering. Now, these are cool. You don't want these hot. You got to let them cool down. And if you hold them open, maybe you keep the bottom a little bit closed. Sometimes that cheese, if you get just the right measure and you get good at this, that cheese is going to want to go right down to the bottom right away. Now, the heat in here is different than the heat in that sauce. We'll just finish filling this one. This has got to be the most exciting thing on television right now, is watching a biker stuff cheese into a manicotti. Can you believe it? All right, now, we get this one nice and stuffed. Down at the other end, the cheese is almost coming out, so we'll just flip it over and add that last little bit in there. I'm going to fill up several of these, and I'm not going to make you watch me fill them all. I've got 2. What we're going to do is we're going to take a baking pan. We're going to take some sauce. Our sauce is now nicely prepared. And we're going to take and put some of this sauce underneath on the bottom. And take a look at how chunky this sauce is. This is not your out-of-the-jar sauce. Spread a little bit of sauce on the bottom of the pan. Not too much, just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. And you want to lay each one of these little babies in there. And what we're going to do is I will fill that pan up. We're going to cover them with some more sauce. And we're going to take some nice mozzarella. I jump off the side of that screen. And we're going to cover this with some mozzarella. Now, what we're going to do, cover those up real well. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in the magic oven. Check out which side it is, and when we come back, it's going to be finished. It's going to have 2 more in there, and we're going to eat them because they're delicious and cooked with fire. All right. All right. Now, down here out of the magic oven. Yes, it moved because it's magic. Look at this. It is beautiful. It is absolutely delicious. Fabulous manicotti. I won't even cut them open. They're gorgeous. All right. Remember, Bill and everyone else out in the audience. What are you going to do? Eat hot, ride safe. I'll see you next week, and we'll cook with fire. All right.
This has been an Alright production. Copyright 1993 and 2010.